The tale of Gandalf and the Balrog in Moria is one of sacrifice, endurance, and ultimate transformation. But what if Gandalf, armed with his unparalleled wisdom and the light of Narnia, had defeated Durin's Bane without falling into the abyss? The implications for Middle-earth would ripple far beyond the Fellowship, altering not just the War of the Ring, but the entire balance of power in the Third Age. In 3019 of the Third Age, as the Fellowship fled into Moria, the shadow of Khazad-dûm loomed. The Balrog, a remnant of Morgoth's ancient malice, was no mere foe. It was a mayor like Gandalf, albeit corrupted by darkness. Gandalf's confrontation on the bridge of Khazad-dûm was a clash of primordial forces, a test of flame against flame. But imagine this. Instead of being pulled into the abyss, Gandalf calls upon the hidden depths of his power, channeling the grace of Eru and the Valar to vanquish Durin's Bane outright. What might follow? Firstly, the Fellowship remains intact, with Gandalf's guidance preserving their cohesion. Without the despair caused by his apparent death, Frodo and Aragorn's resolve strengthens earlier, setting a steadier course through the trials of Lothlorien and beyond. More critically, Gandalf's survival leaves Amaya's insight at the heart of Middle-earth's most pivotal moments. Consider this. With Gandalf present, the parley at Parth Galen shifts dramatically. His wisdom could sway Boromir, preventing the betrayal and splintering of the Fellowship. Imagine Gandalf, staff alight with power, dissuading Boromir with visions of Gondor restored, not through the ring, but through the bravery and unity of men. This alone could shift the tide of events, sparing Frodo and Sam their harrowing flight across the Emyn Muil. But deeper implications await. Gandalf the Grey, while mighty, is limited by his mission, to guide rather than dominate. Had he survived as himself, unchanged, he would still tread the fine line of intervention. Yet defeating the Balrog without the crucible of death denies Middle-earth the White Wizard's resurgence. Gandalf the White's rebirth is no mere upgrade. It signifies a deepened connection to Eru's will, a purified purpose. Without this metamorphosis, might Gandalf's foresight falter? Could his confrontation with Saruman, for instance, yield less decisive results? The geopolitical consequences cannot be overstated. In Rohan, Gandalf's absence or presence determines the speed of Theoden's awakening from Wormtongue's grasp. If Gandalf the Grey lacks the rejuvenated authority of his white form, does Rohan rally with equal fervor at Helm's Deep? Does Saruman's machination unravel more slowly, prolonging Sauron's domination of the Western lands? Furthermore, the One Ring itself becomes a sharper focal point. Would Gandalf, without the tempering of rebirth, approach Frodo's burden with the same clarity? Might he attempt to guide the ring-bearer too closely, inadvertently hastening the ring's temptation? Without the death and resurrection, Gandalf's relationship with the ring and its bearer remains layered with the tension of restraint. While Gandalf the White emanates a spiritual purity that commands reverence, Gandalf the Grey retains the earthy, relatable wisdom of a wanderer. This familiarity might strengthen Frodo's trust, but it could also leave Frodo more vulnerable. Why? Gandalf's survival denies him the profound detachment gained through rebirth, a detachment that renders him incorruptible. This lack of transformation might make Frodo lean too heavily on Gandalf, risking Gandalf's own peril as the ring's influence grows. Then there is Saruman. Gandalf's death catalyzes Saruman's fall in ways that are often overlooked. In January 3019, Saruman's capture of Gandalf is marked by his attempt to assert dominance through betrayal. Yet Gandalf's rebirth as the White confirms his supremacy among the Istari, unequivocally breaking Saruman's claim as the head of their order. If Gandalf defeats the Balrog but remains grey, this shift in authority never crystallizes. Could Saruman use Gandalf's perceived vulnerability to manipulate or delay the confrontation at Isengard? In Tolkien's own words, Saruman is an allegory of the corruption of wisdom and power. Without the Balrog's crucible, Gandalf might lack the sharpened conviction to expose and dismantle this corruption. In terms of narrative structure, Gandalf's death creates a void that demands the rise of others. Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, even Frodo. Their growth underlines Tolkien's belief in the resilience of lesser heroes, a theme reflected across Middle-earth's history. Had Gandalf survived, The narrative would likely see him overshadow these characters. Aragorn's transition from reluctant ranger to king might have been less pronounced. Without the need to lead, he could have remained a mere shadow of his destined self. Yet Gandalf's continued presence also reshapes battles like Helm's Deep and the Pelennor Fields. In Helm's Deep, the riders of Rohan and Aragorn benefit immensely from Gandalf the White's decisive intervention. If Gandalf the Grey is there instead, does he wield the same authority to rally Éomer and the scattered riders? This depends on whether he can still perform the dazzling displays of power that rekindle hope, such as his blinding light that scatters the Uruk-hai. Moreover, the Pelennor Fields battle hinges on timing and courage. Gandalf the White's intervention is rooted in clarity of purpose and timing, granted by his resurrection. If Gandalf remains grey, his effectiveness might waver. Consider the stakes if Gandalf the Grey hesitates against the Witch King of Angmar. His presence as the White Wizard represents a culmination of strength and destiny, a culmination denied by his survival in Moria. Finally, think of the spiritual echoes. Tolkien imbued Gandalf's death and return with Christian symbolism: sacrifice, resurrection, and redemption. Gandalf's survival erases this arc, robbing the story of its most powerful theological resonance. What does Middle-earth lose when its chief symbol of hope is not forged in death's fires? The geopolitical ramifications of Gandalf's survival extend well beyond the immediate events of the War of the Ring. The balance of power in Middle-earth hinges on the interplay of free peoples: elves, men, dwarves, and hobbits. Gandalf's transformation into the White Wizard is critical in rallying these disparate forces. Without his metamorphosis, the alliances may falter or form differently. Take the elves of Lothlorien. Galadriel's wisdom is vital, but her decision to entrust the Fellowship with gifts, including the Light of Eärendil, which proves indispensable against Shelob, was influenced by Gandalf's absence. With Gandalf alive and active, Galadriel's role might diminish, changing the weight of her decisions. Her perception of Gandalf as an equal, perhaps even a peer among the Maiar, could lead her to defer certain actions to him, disrupting the delicate autonomy of Lothlorien's influence in the wider war. The dwarves, too, would be affected. Gimli's awe for Galadriel and the burgeoning friendship with Legolas are strengthened in Gandalf's absence, forcing him to mature in his understanding of other races. With Gandalf alive, Gimli's personal growth may stall, leaving unresolved tensions between dwarves and elves. The slow mending of this rift is one of Middle-earth's most profound themes, symbolizing the necessity of unity against greater evils. The Hobbit's journey would likewise shift. Without Gandalf's death, Frodo and Sam's isolation from the Fellowship might be less pronounced. Yet this isolation is what enables their bond to deepen and allows Sam's unwavering loyalty to shine. Frodo's journey through Mordor, driven by his increasing dependence on Sam, mirrors the Fellowship's understanding that even the smallest person can change the course of the future. Gandalf's continued presence might undermine this theme, as his wisdom could overshadow the Hobbits' capacity to forge their path alone. Then there is the broader struggle against Sauron. Gandalf the White is a direct counterbalance to the growing shadow in Mordor. As the White Wizard, he embodies hope and renewal, his very being a rebuke to despair. Without his rebirth, does Middle-earth retain the same spiritual fortitude? While Gandalf the Grey is no less wise or resolute, his return as the White Wizard reinforces the inevitability of Sauron's downfall, a cosmic statement that even the darkest power cannot withstand the light of Eru's design. One cannot overlook the metaphysical implications. The Valar sent Gandalf to Middle-earth with a specific purpose: to guide, not dominate. His transformation into the White Wizard, sanctioned by the Valar, is their endorsement of his mission. Surviving as Gandalf the Grey might be perceived as an incomplete fulfillment of this divine mandate. Would his continued existence strain the delicate balance of Middle-earth's free will versus divine intervention? Could his survival tip the scales, making the victory over Sauron feel less earned and more ordained? Finally, we must address the ultimate end of Gandalf's journey. If he survives the Balrog but does not transcend, does he ever fulfill his role as the bridge between the divine and the mortal? His departure at the Grey Havens in 3021 a poignant culmination of his earthly mission, carries profound weight because of his transformation. Without it, his journey might feel less like a resolution and more like an unfinished chapter. To truly grasp the significance of this alternate timeline, we must examine how it aligns, or fails to align, with Tolkien's themes. At the heart of The Lord of the Rings is the idea of eucatastrophe, a concept Tolkien himself described as the sudden happy turn in a story which pierces you with a joy that brings tears. Gandalf's death and resurrection embody this principle perfectly. His return as Gandalf the White is a moment of triumph over despair, a beacon of hope for the free peoples. Without this narrative pivot, Middle-earth's story would lack its most stirring eucatastrophic moment. Moreover, Tolkien's works are deeply concerned with the interplay of mortality and immortality. Gandalf's return after death mirrors the sacrificial and redemptive arcs found in many mythologies, particularly Christian theology. It symbolizes renewal, a theme echoed in Aragorn's ascent to the throne, the regrowth of the Shire, and the ultimate destruction of the One Ring. If Gandalf defeats the Balrog and remains unchanged, this powerful theme is diminished. His survival might be heroic, but it lacks the profound, transcendent quality of his return. This raises a key question. Would Middle-earth itself be the same? The lands of Arda are deeply intertwined with their inhabitants' fates. Just as the breaking of Narsil and its reforging as Andoril symbolizes the renewal of hope, Gandalf's death and return reflect the cyclical nature of Middle-earth's struggles and triumphs. His survival would alter not just the characters around him, but the very fabric of the world they inhabit. Consider Frodo's final act of mercy at Mount Doom. Gandalf the White's presence throughout the story subtly reinforces the idea of free will tempered by divine guidance. His transformation signifies that even those bound by purpose, like the Maiar, can change and grow. If Gandalf remained grey, his static nature might suggest a universe less inclined toward renewal, a world where the struggle against evil feels more futile than redemptive. Finally, what of the legacy Gandalf leaves behind? His ultimate departure from Middle-earth signifies the end of an age, a transition from the guidance of the Maiar to the dominion of men. If Gandalf remains the Grey Wizard, his exit might feel less poignant, less resonant with the broader themes of change and the passing of ages. Tolkien's works emphasize that even the greatest must eventually leave, making room for others to rise. Gandalf the White's departure fulfills this ideal. Gandalf the Grey's continued presence might overshadow it. In the end, Gandalf's survival would not necessarily be a tragedy for Middle-earth, but it would be a profound loss for the story Tolkien sought to tell. The richness of The Lord of the Rings lies in its layers of sacrifice, renewal, and hope. Gandalf's death and return encapsulate these themes, making his journey one of the most unforgettable arcs in literary history. To imagine it otherwise is to glimpse a world not diminished, but different. A Middle-earth where the shadows linger just a little longer.